So many of us walk around and we take our breathing for granted, Pavel. The average person breathes 25,000 times per day. And most of us have no understanding on how we could use our breath to transform our health. Can you explain how we can do this?
Yes and yes. So first thing first, breath is life. Breath is what you're born with, and breath is what we die with. But here's the hook. What we do between the first breath and last breath is literally what determines the quality, the awareness of every single situation. Fast breath increases heart rate. Slow breath decreases heart rate. And what I like to say is when you take charge of your breath, you can also take charge of the conscious mind, which so many of us nowadays are living in the autopilot. You know, the life is just unfolding in front of us instead of us unfolding the life that is of us. Now, first, what I would like to bring is something called instant presence. It has completely changed my life, and it's such a simple tool. And so, by the way, all the tools that we teach are simple things that you can embody on everyday life, because what is all the deep, mystical thing for sometimes if we don't know how to actually use it?
Yeah.
And so it's got 3 parts. So first part is breath. So what I would like to ask you, whatever you are, driving, sitting, standing, just go into a 6-second inhale in through your nose and 6-second exhale out your nose. This is the gold standard that I would love for you and invite you to practice and come back to as frequently as you can. Because number 1, it lowers down your stress. Number 2, it increases your heart rate variability. But most importantly, you're now in charge. You're not giving your power out. You are in your breath. The second part to this is body awareness. So most of our life, we spend it somewhere in the past, in the future, on our phones and computers, and that's all okay. But if we lose ourselves in the process, what happens? We stop breathing and we tense up. So I want you to ask yourself, where am I? Where are you right now? And if you are just in your brain, or if you are somewhere thinking, what is this guy talking about? Well, you're in your thoughts. You're not in your body. So what you can do is you can actually rub your hands together, if it allows, and then you want to move into this feeling of a deep sensation, this little burning sensation, kind of like a campfire.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Yep. And when you feel the burning sensation, simply place your hands down, wherever you like, and continue breathing in through your hands and out your hands for the same length. 6 seconds in, 6 seconds out. Now, what do you feel? A little bit of a tingling,
yeah.
A little bit of a, I like to say, vitality.
Like warmth.
And most importantly, it's the life force that's inside of us. So what we did is we shaked off some of the chi, energy. Now, let's go on a game of awareness. So continue focusing on your breath, but extend this feeling into both of your arms as well. So feel it traveling up through the breath. And as you're feeling it, sense how the awakening is happening. Because where your energy, your intention goes, your energy flows. Now let's go even further. Let's start focusing also on your throat, on your head, and then move it all the way into your upper body. So completely relax your upper body, relax all of your muscles, and sense the difference between the upper and lower body. Now feel this little aliveness, this little pulsation, this little freedom of opening, so we can actually allow all that chi to flow. Now, when you feel that, also extend it to your legs and on your feet until you feel your whole body, full presence, relaxed state, pulsating, vibrating, and resonating. Now, when you feel this, imagine a champagne-like bubbles bubbling up around your whole body. And when you inhale for 6, inhale through these bubbles and exhale out these bubbles, as if you were not breathing just through your nose, but through every pore of your skin. So I call this being aware of being aware. Many mystics or Eckhart Tolle talks about this.
Yes.
Right? But it means that we're connected to our breath, and we're also connected to our full body's presence or awareness. The third part is, can you pay attention to the stillness and silence underneath the sound, underneath the noise? So for example, you could be in the middle of music festival, super loud, super busy, right? But you can still be aware of your breath, body awareness, and stillness and silence underneath the sound. So I call that instant presence. And I go to this presence as frequently as I can remember, because what happens? I'm in a relaxed state. I'm in control. I'm in my choice, because life is made up of your choices and consequences. But we keep on giving the consequences out to the external. So instant presence is something always there for you. And what I would like to end it with, there's nothing wrong with, scrolling on our phones or being on our computers. But what can get wrong is when we lose ourselves somewhere outside in the phones where we literally don't know about us anymore, right? So imagine the next time that you use social media, you go on your email, you are aware of your breath. You are relaxing your body. So that way you can be just an extension of you instead of losing you in the process.
That's beautiful. And that's a free tip. Anybody could do it. There's no money required. Would you say somebody who's just experiencing something that is causing an emotional rise in them, like they're reacting, right? There's a difference between reacting to a situation, pausing, and responding to a situation. Most people react, whether somebody's cutting you off, you watch the TV and there's a politician you don't like, whatever it is. Would you say this is probably the best time to perform something like this, when you feel like you're out of your flow state, you're reacting to a situation? Do these 3 steps and you'll get into control again.
Absolutely. So for me, I view every situation in life as a way to learn. So we came to Earth here, right, to extract from oneness, or whatever we call it, God, to be able to descend on Earth and to be able to exchange gifts with one another. Now, when we start seeing every situation as a gift, then all of a sudden it gives us a choice to react, right? Go outside of us, get raged. And like you said, somebody crosses in front of you in a car. Perfect example. Or husband, wife, yells at you for not cleaning up the bathroom after. Little things like that can be the biggest things to master every single situation. And when we start with the little micro things, then it actually helps in the macro things of what we are, experiencing every single day. And so for me, the biggest kind of like the lesson to this is like an ice bath, right? It's no different than somebody yelling at you, but it's like obvious, right? In like a seconds, you just either react or you proact. And so when we come from a place of proaction, it's that empowerment, so we can choose. Or you first step into neutrality, right? And then you can decide with a calm head, what to do, because how often that got us in trouble, right? In life.
So true. And the funny thing with the cold plunge, I find that every time I'm standing in front of my cold plunge, every time is a negotiation to get in. And the longer I'm there thinking about it, I feel like more resistant builds. So I'm just, as soon as I find myself like delaying or procrastinating, I just go right in. And then I do the breathing. I'm more present. I'm feeling the water, right? And then I'm kind of getting into a flow state. The hardest part is actually getting into the cold plunge. I just want to tie in what you just shared and what we're going to talk about today to what this is doing at the cell level, right? You mentioned heart rate variability. Like when you practice something like that, those 3 steps that you mentioned, it'll increase your heart rate variability. And for those who don't know what that is your nervous system's adaptation, right? It's a healthy balance of parasympathetic and sympathetic. So many people who are not recovering from workouts, who feel stressed, they're not getting good sleep, they feel depleted, they have a very low HRV. They're very either sympathetic dominant or they're parasympathetic suppressed. And there are so many ways to raise HRV. This is a free tool that if you've measured your HRV, and I'd love for you to talk more about this, if you measured your HRV before doing this and right after, you'd see it bump up, right? So can you talk a little bit more about why this is important to raise your HRV?
No, absolutely. I mean, breath is everything. And it's so funny, like you said, it's free. And so we keep on seeking something outside, and including myself. My whole life, I was doing all of these crazy retreats and mystical experiences, and it all led me back to breath. I've literally tried every psychedelic on that's out there.
Really?
And worked with the shamans in, South Africa and South America. And it was this old self that was, I think, also seeking escapism in a ways. And that's a whole nother conversation, that what's happening with the psychedelic industry in our world today.
Yes.
And it's so interesting, now I prohibit people to come high, so to speak, into our events, because there's nothing more powerful than you guiding you within you. And that's why I truly believe that breath is this guide. And when we start listening in, what is it showing us? Is it too fast? Is it too slow? When we start playing with it, we start getting insights. And one of the big things, even outside of the heart rate variability, is also EEG. So we do a lot of tracking in our events before and after. We have a EEG and a neurofeedback station. And basically what's crazy is that, most of us are high beta dominance, which is overly thinking, overly analyzing mind, AKA monkey brain, that we're all dealing with. And so the breath can literally, even if you just close your eyes for a second and you start putting awareness on different parts of your body, we always see it. It instantly goes into alpha. You're one step closer, right, from that overly thinking beta. And then if you add visualization to it, then that's the stimulation to the theta and to the subconscious mind. And so that's, by the way, the meditation 101 to me is not about how long you do it, is how quickly can you move and alter these states. And that's really what breath can do.
Oh, that's so cool. I love that you have the technology and you track that and see that. That's very, very cool. For somebody who already practices breath work, what are some other variations of the breathwork techniques that you teach? Like this one that you just shared, I think anybody could do it at any time. Really, really practical. I know there's other methods out there, so maybe we could talk about another method that we could use as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I like to split breathwork into two categories, just to make it really simple. You've got the subtle breathing, which could be the 6x6. This could be box breathing, which is 4x4x4x4. You can also alter the time as you wish. It's really about the pauses and then the same rhythmical time up, pause, down, pause.
So that it equals the same amount of time.
Yep.
Whatever you do for inhale, for exhale as well.
Yes,
okay,
you got it. There's also, I love using 369. Tesla, this was like the Tesla code, and he said this, that if you want to understand the universe, don't quote me on this, but it was like, look into frequency, vibration, and energy. And essentially this magic number, the 369, can help you decrease stress. And especially if you have anxiety or like a high level of stress, you're dealing through something, it takes about 3 to 5 minutes to literally calm it back down.
Wow. So somebody who suffers with panic attacks, high level of stress, 3 to 5 minutes, they could calm down.
Yes, absolutely. And by the way, it's a 3 seconds inhale through your nose. It's 6 second hold. And then it's 8 or 9 second exhale out your mouth.
Okay.
So you actually focus and follow the exhale. The other one, if you are really in like an excruciating situation, which I'm going to use ice bath for now.
Yes.
And I'm trained under Wim Hof. So that was like my original kind of a door into
That's
breathing.
Cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So about 7 years ago, I went to the Polish retreat.
Wow.
And I walked in there mildly sick, and I walked out of there healthy. And for me, that was like, what the hell? Like, how can you, do something so simple and yet, empower yourself so deeply? And so for that, it's a long, deep, extended exhale. So you could start with doubling the exhale. So for example, you inhale for 4, you exhale for 8, or you can inhale for 5, exhale for 10.
Got it.
So that's a great rhythm where you, again, focus on doubling the exhale.
Okay.
In through your nose, out through your mouth. And then the other one, if you're like really, really bad, right? Then just deep, long exhale. Keep on blowing the air out, blowing it out. And until you literally demand from the hardware, the body, with the software, the mind, right? So software and hardware, we're just like a computer. And your hardware is literally listening to the software what to do next. And so we lost that connection, right, between the mind and body, but we don't realize that it's not the opposite around. Like the mind directs the body. And
Right.
so then you just literally demand it until you relax enough into your body that you calm down. And that works every time. You just have to get through the hump. Kind of like, ice bath, the 30 seconds, right?
Yeah.
The 30 to
The first
45
few
seconds.
Yeah.
And all you're basically deciding, right? All your body is saying is, I'm at shock. Do I fight and flight, right? Like, do I run away? Or do I rest and digest, right? Do I go into that subtle state of comfort? But it's waiting for your mind, for your breath to basically decide that. So that's a subtle type of breathing. I think it was like 4 or 5 of them, which I love to use many of them in a different times. They're all easy to practice and play with it. That's the most important thing, is like what works for you is not going to be the same that works for me or other people. And then there is, of course, the deep breathing, which is the fun part. This is when we can have mystical experiences. This is when we can see a past once. This is when we can go and access the subconscious mind. And that can be done through holotropic, right? That was one of the original OGs that came into the world from Stanislav Grof. I think it was in the 70s when, LSD was banned. He was tasked to figure out how can we, stimulate the same brain portions as if we are, taking stimulants. Then Wim Hof. So I think Wim Hof is the most studied on the market. It's also the easiest to access. You can see recordings anywhere.
It's on Spotify too. Yeah.
Yep. Then I love also power breathing, which is something where you breathe similar way to Wim Hof on the inhale and exhale. So it's a deeper on inhale, no force on exhale. But at the end, you hold your breath on inhale and you squeeze. You squeeze your core, you flex your muscles.
We did that at your event, I remember.
Yep. I like to use that for the reset part, because it pushes the cerebral fluid through your spine up into your brain. And, a lot of people say this is what releases the DMT. There's no science yet fully understanding it and validating it, but people can feel that. So that's how I let them decide. And then you've got, the advanced oxygen training. You've got shamanic breathing. There's different variations. And I would say the most satisfying one that it's not going to put more stress on you is rhythmical breathing. And that is basically still deep breath, but it's 2 seconds in, 2 seconds out, or 4 seconds in, 4 seconds out. And the difference between Wim Hof and rhythmical breath is that with Wim Hof, you inhale deeper than you exhale, but here you inhale deeply and you exhale deeply.
Equally.
So it's equal.
Okay.
And that can actually, so if people have anxiety, if people have issues with stress or past traumas, sometimes holotropic or Wim Hof can actually put you into stress. And it does for a short period of time. And it might not be the right breath for you.
Because it's more activating.
Yes.
Versus we want something that's more relaxing.
Yes,
Okay.
you got it. Well, and that one is like the fine line, you know?
Got it.
So that way you could do the same rhythmical breath subtly, right? But if you do it in a deep way, it still gets you into these zones, but you're not going to go into a panic attack, you know? So subtle breathing and deep breathing. Deep breathing is something you do not practice standing up, around water or driving, because you can pass out. So just those of you,
You might
that
get
are
lightheaded, you might pass out. Yeah.
Yep, very important.
Yes.
But you use those maybe for morning meditation, morning activation. Once a week, I usually like to go deeper, where I just continue breathing for about 15 to 20 minutes, and I let whatever is going to unfold, I just set the intention, to be fully protected and aware, and whatever I need to experience, let it unfold.
That's beautiful. I love that there's so many different methods, and you can kind of pick and choose your own adventure for those watching and listening. One of the other things that these techniques are doing, not just raising our HRV and kind of resetting our nervous system, which protects your immune system and balances and buffers cortisol, but it's delivering all these nutrients to your cells, to your tissues, because it's vasodilating your cells. That oxygen is getting to your cells. And I always tell people this, a lot of my students, because they're always asking me, like, which biohacking device should I get? Should I get the PEMF? Should I get the red light? Should I get the sauna? They're all great, don't get me wrong. Those cost money, but and they usually take some time to kind of notice the effects. Maybe after a cold plunge, you might feel a little energized, but overall, these biohacks, you have to do them consistently to kind of really notice the effects. With breath work, I'll call it a biohack. Doing this breath work technique that you just outlined for us, it doesn't matter which one, you're going to notice something on that first session. Like you're going to notice, I notice tingling when I do it. I notice I have more energy. Like it's the one thing that when I personally do, I notice it every single time, first time, third time, the 20th time, versus other biohacks, I have to do it more consistently to get that benefit.
Yes.
Have you heard that before?
No, 100%. Well, so two things. Number one, I think the most important biohacks are free, right? So it's light, air, grounding, and so on. And I know you were probably talking about it plenty. The most important biohack is to unhack everything that you've ever known about every single biohack. Come back into your center, come back into those inner guidance, because we all are guided, but we're too damn busy to hear these senses. And we can talk about it later, these psychic senses or spiritual gifts that we all have, but we are not taught how to use them. And so everybody, that I work with, maybe they struggle with creativity, or they don't know, lack of purpose, or they're not sure like what the next steps are. Well, number one, question everything. So questioning, through questions, you can start receiving answers. And number two, it's like when you use the breath as this guide into these alternative states, it changes your brain waves enough so you can actually hear. And I also practice something called the process of unhooking, because we're so hooked into all of these different desires and needs and meetings and, everything outside of us. And that's nothing wrong with it. It's beautiful. But if you lose yourself in the process, that's what becomes sometimes painful, because then all of your attention goes into, I didn't do enough biohacking, or I didn't do enough PEMF, or I didn't do enough cold. And then we start getting hard on ourselves, and then we become so disciplined. And that's the old patriarchal way of learning. We got to move into that feminine, that fun, ease, and joy and playfulness through whatever we're doing. But be guided by the inner source of information that's always there. We just got to slow down enough to hear that.
That's beautiful. Were you referring to like these powers? I think you said. Were you referring to like our higher faculties? Like we have our senses. Taste, touch, smell, hear, and all five of them. But then we have these higher faculties like perception and intuition. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah.
These gifts that we have that we don't tap into?
Absolutely. So they're always there. And so I spent the last 15 years traveling the world. So a little bit about my journey through this. I used to be depressed. I used to have a chronic fatigue. I had an Epstein-Barr, and I was sick every 2 weeks. So I used to be a professional athlete. I actually rode bikes all over the world. And but I also was an entrepreneur in the early stages. And my company, I was building a company when I was off the touring. And then I was, riding and trying to recover while I was on touring.
Wow.
And this is what busted me. And this is also what got me into biohacking, is because I got so depressed that I had a suicidal thoughts at the age of 18. And so I told myself, I'm not going for antidepressants. I don't want to do the conventional stuff. I'm going into this journey through self-transformation, which is what I teach today and teach others, because we didn't come here to learn from the gutter. We didn't come here to learn from pain. We came here to learn from love and expression of joy with one another, with community, and so on. And so what happened to me was I got so burned out and so dark in my life that I did not see the light at the end of the tunnel. And it was this combination of understanding on which levels are we operating in this life, and then how do we fix that, right? And so what I've learned is that we work on the micro and macro cycles. So in biohacking, we talk a lot about biofeedback, neurofeedback, but we don't talk about universal feedback. So every single situation gives us a feedback to either look in or look out, react or proact. So I used to run away from pain. I used to don't want to do confrontations, and I would do anything but to see myself basically for who I am, not for what I am not. And when I got done with that, I started looking into those things that were hard in my life. So anytime I had a health issue, I would look into the core. What is it causing it on a physical level? Anytime I had a constant negative thought, I would start thinking, why am I thinking this way? And what I would literally do is I would write down all the sentences about myself and about another, and I would scratch it and rewrite it like a software anytime they would come back. So that's body, that's mind, right? Then I realized that emotions is here for us to express this life, whatever it feels real, right? Emotions is giving us that ability to feel it. And so for me, I look back into my traumas. I look back into who did I hurt? Who has hurt me? Because then when I start unlocking these characters that kept on repeating in my life, I kept on feeling, jealousy and darkness and fear and guilt, all of the negative emotions. Now, so I started looking into that, clearing that. Then the spirit was the last part, and that's to answer your long story short. Yeah. I'm going in there, and essentially I went into Brazil about 6-7 years ago, and I spent month with the psychics in this psychic village in the middle of nowhere. Now, I used to be a entrepreneur and totally living on the left brain side of things.
Yeah.
But I had an open heart and open mind. And for me, I basically spent these 15 years that anybody that had an answer to a healthy body, which for me was biohacking, healthy mind, which was, 𝙃𝙀𝙼𝙍𝙀 and all of the different mindfulness tools and teachings, emotions, and then spirit was this trip to Brazil. So what they taught me, something so simple. We've got 5 physical senses, which a lot of times get us in trouble. That's the instant gratification, the dopamine buzz, everything that we're dealing with on an everyday basis. But then we've got these 4 mystical senses. Some people call it intuition, the higher self, the God. No matter what you label this, it's there for us to keep us on the highest path at any given moment. Now, what they said is that we have inner hearing, which is the first one. And those are the little whispers. And I'll give you an example. Maybe at night you're watching on Netflix and part of you knows that hey, maybe turn the Netflix off, right? Maybe read a book or connect with your wife or husband. And so it's these little whispers that are not the lousy monkey brain that always have your back. Maybe it tells you quit drinking alcohol. Maybe it's telling you start working out, right? It's like the subtle little whisper that is not the monkey brain that are constantly telling you something that if you don't follow it long enough, then we get in trouble.
The intuition.
That's the intuition.
Essentially intuition.
And so here's how you strengthen it. First, you acknowledge it. So thank you, I heard that. But the magic keyword is what you're going to do about that. And so again, I came in there as an open heart, open mind. And I start following this, right? So I start following the senses. I actually quit drinking alcohol, and I'm using myself, by the way.
That's awesome.
So I always, whatever I teach is something that I've learned and adapted. And then the voice start getting louder and louder. And so it start building the trust, right? That actually these voices are real. These voices are not telling me to hurt someone. And that's, by the way, how you know that how you discern them. It's not going to tell you to slap your neighbor, right? It will never harm another person. So that's the first one, inner hearing. Then you've got your inner feeling, which is the empaths of the world. Different labels, again, for everything.
Yeah.
But this is, Reiki healing is done through that. Pranic healing is done through that. And generally, you connect your solar plexus and you extend your hands in front of you. So you extend that energy through your hands, and you can either tune into yourself, sense into someone else. You can even feel into situation. And that's in your body. To give you an example, you walk into a room and there was a fight before you, but you didn't even know that there was a fight. Something didn't feel right.
Yeah.
It's in your body and you cannot explain that little icky feeling.
Yeah.
So that is protecting us again from something in the future. And same thing, thank you, I felt that. What you gonna do about that? Now, the third one is your inner seeing. And this is visionaries of the world. Especially if you have any entrepreneurs listening, you have an idea, something that hasn't been done, or a book, right? You have an idea that is somewhere in the future, and you can see it in impressions. And most of the time it comes in a lucid dreaming because you're in that theta dominant state. And this is when you can see before things happen. Some people can interpret their dreams. So it comes through the seeing, right? So inner seeing. And same thing, thank you, I saw that. What you gonna do about that? And the last one, the fourth one, is inner knowing. This is that deep intuition. And to best discern this, so firstly, it's the hardest one to discern because the egoic mind has an agenda. But when you think, you don't know. When you know, you do not require to think. Does that make sense?
Yes.
You knew you shouldn't have gone to the party. You knew that that person was cheating on you. You knew that that was a bad decision. It was in every bone of your skin. So those are the main prominent 4 senses that we start building in a stillness, silence, and solitude. That's when you can best access them because you're not in that busy monkey brain state.
Yeah.
And then more you start listening to them, then more you're aligning to that highest path here on earth. And so those are the senses you want to listen to. Is PMF a good thing today? Does that make sense? So when you unhook, when you unhack, then you choose to hack whatever your inner guidance is telling you. So I call this the me individual consciousness, and it's the microcycle that we operate in, made up of your physical health, mental, emotional, and spiritual. Does that make sense? So
Yes.
this is the individual part that you have a control over and that you have the choice to change as you expand in your life. Then you start thinking, me is not good enough. And this is what was for me. It was like, what about others? What about the environment? What about the life that we're living in with my neighbors and so on? And that's when you go into the we, the collective consciousness. And the collective gives you another set of different examples and ways to learn. And I break that down into relationships, and I break it down into environment and social structures. So social structures is society. What do we believe in, right? Governmental structures and
School, church,
school,
etc.
church, all of that. Then it's your environment, which is looking into the air that you breathe, water that you drink, food that you eat, soil, even clothes that you wear, right? So many of us wear poisoning clothes
Yes.
with the biggest organ of our body. So everything on the outside that affects the inside. And now then it's the relationships, which that's the special session, the edition that you came to. Because what I've learned through, we do over 100 events a year all across the world.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so we do tens of thousands of people.
You are committed. Tens of thousands of people, 100 events a year.
Yes.
Just before you talk about that,
If you're following a low carbohydrate, keto diet, or carnivore diet, this is one of the most important tips. I see a lot of people who struggle with keto and carnivore, and the reason they struggle is because they are losing too many electrolytes. They're becoming mineral depleted. Every cell in your body needs minerals to function, to produce energy, which helps you burn fat and feel good. My favorite minerals and electrolytes are from Beam Minerals. These are fulvic and humic compounds that are bioavailable that have over 70 minerals in them. It tastes like water. They're carnivore friendly. Let me explain why. There are no anti-nutrients in them. It does not break a fast. As a matter of fact, it could support your fasting window, and it's been a game changer for my health, and I recommend it to all my students. Head over to beamminerals.com. Use the coupon code Azadi at checkout, my last name, Azadi at checkout, to get a nice discount. Beamminerals.com, coupon code is Azadi.
you got to go to one of these events. I did my first one recently here in Miami Beach a few months ago. I was honored to do a little lecture there and then participate in it. I don't do a lot of these events. I don't do a lot of these breathwork events and just events in general. I did that one and I was thankful as a result. Like I got emotional during the session. I got to meet some really cool people. I learned more about breath work and how to utilize it on a day-to-day basis, even deeper than what we're talking about here. But one of the things that I have a challenge with, which is also an opportunity for me, is, and my fiance always kind of makes fun of me, I rarely cry. I rarely get emotional. And I don't consciously hold myself back, but I know something subconsciously holds me back from maybe looking weak, or I don't know what it is. And I cried at your event. I got emotional, right? And it felt so good. Anytime I cry, it's like this release. So I'm grateful that I joined it and I was a part of it. And you got to go to the event. Share your website real quick for them to see the event. So what's the website?
Yeah, so we call it System Reset.
Yeah.
And it's noaaon.com, Noaaon.
We'll put that down below. System Reset. Okay, continue with what you were going to share.
No, and so System Reset, by the way, it's a system of tool set that basically after all these travels I put together. And so it's a combination of shamanic training. It's from gurus, it's from teachers, it's from the biohackers. And anytime something worked and had a science behind it, I put it into this System Reset tool. Awesome. And that's how I came up with this me, we, be model. And that's how we match each breath with each component of our life. So we can actually reset it back to baseline. That's kind of the whole methodology, is like a computer. You know, you hold a power button for 2 or more seconds, you reset back to baseline. And
Control-Alt-Delete.
Yes, literally. But that's all. Our life is a coding.
Yeah.
If you're a good coder, you apply those codes into your life, and you're gonna be a great.
Everything works by law. You just have to know the code, essentially.
Absolutely. But just like computers, if you lose internet, you can download new software. So what we do, we connect to the inner net, which is happening through changing the brain states and slowing it down. And so to come back to the collective, relationships are always the hardest. And it's really, I feel for you listening, because I've had so many negative relationships. I got divorced. I've hurt so many people. And it was so difficult for me to accept myself, because I'm so different today and I had to live with it. but I can keep on, going back and punish myself for it, or I can accept myself for what I am. And so what I've learned through that is that there's these 7 stages that we all go through. Stage 1 is the romance, right? This is the butterflies,
Like
the
the honeymoon
excitement.
effect.
Yes,
Yeah.
the honeymoon effect. And by the way, this can work with any relationships. A new yoga studio, right? That you sign up for
Yeah.
membership. New LLC, right? It works with anything. It's the excitement. The second part is commitment, where new hire paperwork, or you sign up for the membership, or husband and wife, right? The third step is broken vase. And what that is, you start seeing things that you didn't see at the beginning. You act just like your mother, or you act just like your father. It's this like thing that offsets us that we didn't see in the butterfly phase. And it could be also as simple as your yoga studio doesn't have showers and you can't go to work after because you smell, right?
It's kind of like you take off what is the saying? The rose-colored glasses.
Yes.
In the beginning, everything looks nice and rosy. Now you take off the glasses and you're kind of seeing all the flaws that you didn't see before.
Reality check.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we move into the 4th stage, which is ordeal. And I'm going to sing it. Should I stay or should I go? And what it is, this can last for 25 years. This is something where highs and lows. I love you, I hate you. I want to out and I want to in. And this could be, let's say, an attorney, right, that is making great money being in the institution, but his or her heart's desire is, to do something totally else, but will get stuck in there because of that fear of what may happen, right? If we lose that.
Yeah.
And this is also the codependency. This is also that like you, what you do wrong instead of what I can do different, right? And it can leads into the 5th stage, which is collapse. You make it or you break it. And so 5th stage is usually the shortest one, because this is when people can get divorced. This is when they shut down the company. They choose they cancel the membership. But it also can be invitation to the new way of life. And that's the 6th stage, surrender. And so surrender is when you start accepting it for what it is. Not that you give power out, but I'm going to use another song.
Yeah.
It is what it is, so what?
I love that. I remember doing that with you at your event.
We did that. And the reason why is, we tend to be so damn serious and like hard and on ourselves and on another. And so what this does, it brings that neutrality back, and then you choose what to do. And that leads us into the 7th stage, which is true love, true harmony, true union. Life is great. And what can we do to accelerate that? It becomes the question of, how can I be different? What do I do that is reflecting in someone else of me, right? This is that higher path where you start seeing every moment as a way to learn, as a way to grow. And so that's the 7th stage of relationships of the collective consciousness. And so just like the me, we keep on getting these lessons, right? We keep on getting same thought pattern or the same relationships, because even if you break it in the 5th stage, you're going to find somebody else, and it's just matter of time before the same set of things
So that's
come.
what I was going to ask you. Most people go through the first 5 stages and then kind of reset through 1 through 5, never getting to 6 and 7. Are most people doing that?
Well, I think through whatever we call awakening now on our planet, people are becoming more conscious and aware. And by the way, this is when the breath work comes in, right? Like when the emotions arise, you go back to breath, you relax, you don't let the emotion to bring toxicity into your body.
Yeah.
Right? And this goes really full circle into like why breath is so powerful, because surrender is literally directly correlated to breath. And then the 7th stage doesn't really have any more intellectual, desires or goals, because whatever is for the greatest good of the whole, make it happen, And it's funny, for example, in business, I set the intention that I always seek triple benefit, where it benefits me, benefits you, and benefits the whole.
Great.
So for example, like our time today, it's an incredible way to connect. But the old way was win-win. You know how, let's say somebody gets a real estate deal that they bring, a bunch of oil through sacred land, and then the oil spills.
Yeah. So 2 parties win, but the planet does not win.
But the planet doesn't win. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like, we got to think higher. We got to grow higher.
That's
and we got to invite all of us to reflect that. And the last part about a relationship is you want to create an army of angels around you that reflect the best of you, not the opposite. And that's how I started. I used this 4-step process through all of that. And what I do is I first wake up. I bring the awareness. So to give you an example, like let's say that you get a blood drawn, right? You can, maybe you are low on vitamin D and you're high on environmental toxin, right? Something very analytical that is easy. So it gives you the wake up phase to bring up the awareness of something is not working, right? The second stage is you clean up. This is when you detox, you let go of the negative mind, the negative relationships, or you see what you can do to rework it to the best possible
Set boundaries,
outcome.
try to figure it out. Got it.
Yes. So that way you can power up, which is you go into the offense. And when you power up, this is when you bring supplement vitamin D, or when you bring new relationships, you bring new ideas. And this is the exciting part, right? Because we're going forward.
Yeah.
And then the last part is resting up, which is the reassessment, reintegration. And that's when the process of unhooking becomes really handy, because you get this view on your life, you know, where you at, you check in with yourself. And what's really been helpful for me is I use it in a cyclical way. So once a day, I spend the first hour of the day just by myself. So no cell phone, no computers. I stay in this state so I can decide what are the choices and consequences for the day to follow.
It's great.
So I do breathwork, meditation, you know, activation, and I think biohackers are great with routines,
Yes.
right? So that's the one thing per day. Once per week, I take a full day off from everything, but including food. So I actually fast digitally, physically, and the first half of the day, I'm somewhere in the nature. I journal, I write, and I look back in the week, and I look forward to the next week.
It's great.
And so that allows me to, again, take the charge and slow it down enough so I can hear where am I going? What are the changes, right? Once per month, I take 4 days off. And same thing, I fast for about 72 hours. And then I digitally fast. I also spend time with family and friends. You connect into the things that you're too busy in a regular life. And I look at the month as a whole, and I set the intentions for the following month. And once a year, I spend 10 days in darkness. And this doesn't have to be this extreme.
Yeah.
This has been my medicine, but I've been 5 times. So I've spent over 50 days in complete darkness with no food over the past 5 years.
Just water.
And just water, with breatharians, with the pranic people.
But you were in darkness inside? Is that where you didn't even go outside for 10 days?
No, yes.
Wow.
And so for me, that's the once a year when I revisit the entire year. And so I look back, who did I hurt? What did I have done well? What did I do different? And I project to the next year, what are my true heart's desires? And this has completely changed my life, because what happens is I no longer experience burnouts. I no longer experience like, who should I be? And am I doing it right, or am I doing it wrong? Because I allow for these times to check in, right? And so what happens is the first time I went to darkness, my life changed completely, 360. I walked in there as a busy entrepreneur, opening all these Orange Theory fitness locations. And I walked out of there and I literally rediscovered my passion, which is music, my purpose, which is now these workshops and retreats and speaking. And my legacy was, how do I make means in living in service to others? And so, but the second year, minor adjustments. Third year, minor adjustments, because then I was on that path. And that's why you don't have to do darkroom, just taking that time off and acknowledging and really getting all the fruits of all of your creations to take a pause, which I think is so hard in our life, especially in America.
Yes.
Because we forget that we live our life, nobody else's, and it's time that we live our dreams. Dreams are meant to be lived.
That's right.
Not somewhere when we one day have time and one day have money.
Yeah, well, beautifully said. Wow, so much there. I have a lot of questions now. So 10 days in darkness. The first time you did it, how long into it were you like, I'm getting out of this? Did you have those thoughts? Like, I'm just going to get out of this. This is not for me. Did you have those thoughts?
Absolutely. So it was brutal at first. And what was brutal wasn't the food. Because, I was already...
Wasn't the no food, you mean?
Yeah, it wasn't the no food. I was already, doing intermittent fasting. And so that part was actually easy. What was really hard is the emotional attachment to food. and the mental attachment. It's really crazy how socially attached we are to things more than we realize on a physical level. And so it was like day 4, I start dreaming of lamb chops. And I'm like, I like lamb chops, but like not to an extent that I'm literally seeing it hanging on every single corner of the room. And so it was day 7 where I finally had the collapse, like the 5th stage, so to speak. And I surrendered. And I went into this beautiful state of bliss. And for the first time in my life, I have touched myself for who I am, deeply level inside, not for what I'm not for what I'm being told. And so I was crying and purging because I was free. For the first time, I felt, what does it feel like to not have all these constraints of life and needs and desires?
Wow.
And so it took me 7 days.
So I have more questions now. Okay. Is it completely pitch black? You can't even see your hand?
Correct.
And are you talking to anybody or you're by yourself?
So this is a very unique dark room. It's in Thailand with a gal called 𝙎𝙬𝘽𝙎𝘾.
Okay.
She's been my mentor, and she is far the most advanced being I've come across. She channels. She's a breatharian. She doesn't eat any physical food for the last 25 years.
Wow.
She's completely nourished by prana as a source.
And the sunshine. Like she gets sunshine.
Well, so there's different levels. So some people think that breatharians means air. It's actually inner source of love. That's all inside of us. We all have that. It's the original source vibration that gives us life when we're born. Could be soul, spirit, infusion of God. And it's what will take it away and go back into oneness when we die. And so I went through this whole thing with her to become ambassador of peace, to basically teach this beautiful lifestyle, this 8-point lifestyle, as to way of how we spend our time, because how we spend our time is what determines our frequency and vibration of all the time. And to give you an example, if you spend a lot of your time on your passions, on your purpose, like writing a book, you forget to eat. You know, all of a sudden you lose the physical hungers.
This is true.
As we know it.
Yeah.
Because we're in a flow. We're in a state one with God. Whatever we called it, it's this beautiful place of why we came here, right? We're creators. And by the way, no matter who you are in the world and whoever you are listening right now, you have a things to say. You have a community effect. There's no one in the world, because so many of us don't have this trust. And for me, like, my English wasn't perfect. Like, it was the last thing that I ever thought that I would be doing. But all I'm doing is living at the essence and trying to do my best every single day. And I don't have it all. You know, I don't have it right every time. I still have issues to deal with. And it's, you know, there's no mastery in life. But what becomes a mastery is every moment to give yourself a credit, to give yourself this love and appreciation that you can be better. You can do different. It's all in your choice.
Beautiful. So deep. I acknowledge you for doing that work. I love the daily routine. I love the monthly routine, the yearly routine. I don't know. That's the kind of scares me, right? Maybe I should lean into it because it scares me. But going into darkness, I do believe that the morning is such a powerful time for everybody. It's when the subconscious mind is most impressionable. I'm like you. I don't look at my phone. Actually, I come in here. You see those boards back there? I'm reading those affirmations with goals. I'm looking at things I want to accomplish. Like, those are Photoshop photos of like my future goals that I'm going to manifest. Like, I'm looking at that and using all my senses. I'm reading my affirmation card. I'm walking my dog. No phone for the first hour. I have the red light on. It's such a special time. And it doesn't have to be an hour. I know somebody watching and listening, they're like, I don't have an hour. I have to go to work. Sometime in the morning, right? 15 minutes to yourself. The breathing exercises you shared with us, that first one, those 3 steps, you could do that one less than 10 minutes, right?
Oh, 3-4 minutes.
There you go.
I mean, so yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, because it's not always an hour. It's not always possible. But even if it's 30 minutes, it's that check-in that you are in charge, that you are directing life.
The day is not controlling you. You're controlling the
Correct.
day.
Yes. Because the minute that we go on our phone, let's say that you wake up, right? And you get an alarm, you look at the phone, and then there is a sequence of notifications.
Yeah.
Right? What happens? Immediately
Monkey brain.
There, monkey brain starts but also anxiety, right? If there's a negative email or something you didn't do
A
yet,
problem you have to solve.
and stress goes up, right? Cortisol levels goes up. Everything starts then unfolding from this icky place. And then we wonder at the end of the day, why do we always feel so bad?
Yeah.
well, damn, start the day right and you will feel great.
It's true. If you could do anything, like start that day off right. Like just 15, 30 minutes, an hour is great, but some time to yourself. Like my phone's not even in my bedroom. I don't look at it the first hour. I'm doing my goals, my gratitude. I like the monthly thing too. You said you take 4 days off and you connect, you're with family, you're with nature, no work, no phone. Now, let me ask you this. How consistent are you with that monthly 4 days and the daily morning check-in that you do with all that you have going on and traveling and all that? Are you like 100% you do this all the time, or do you have some times where you don't do it and you kind of forgive yourself?
So I would say 90%. There is sometimes that, for example, we have a conferences back to back, or where it like goes further, and those are generally the times that then I struggle. Then I like go into that place of burnout, like that feeling of like, okay, this is too much. But then, generally, well, yes, I have to forgive myself. I accept it. I don't go and beat myself with a stick, because ironically, one of the things that I've done, I did a samurai camp and a Zen master training in Kyoto in Japan many years back.
That's cool.
And it was cool, right? But it's the old patriarchal way. It's like led by fear. And there's literally a monk behind you watching if you're drifting into sleep and will stick you with the back to keep you alert. And so to me, like, awesome, it worked for centuries, but in today's world, it's really the feminine. It's understanding the playfulness, the joy, the ease, because we're way too hard on ourselves to begin with.
Oh, that's interesting. You said a lot of gold there. The part about the dream, one of the, I think it was one of the inner, when you went to Brazil, there was the 4 main things that you discovered, right? Was the dreaming state one of them, part of the conversation? I remember you talking about dreams and manifesting dreams. But anyways, it reminded me of the old quote, Van Gogh, the artist. He used to say, they used to ask him, how do you paint such wonderful paintings? And he said, I dream my painting and then I paint my dream. It's like, we could do that with our goals, right? We could dream our goals and our vision, and then we could manifest that. We reverse engineer it. So many people think, no, I have to see it first and then I'll believe it. And that's the exact opposite for how things work. We believe it first and then it manifests. And if you don't believe it, it's probably not going to happen. So how important is it to believe, for example, with my audience, they want to heal. They want to reverse their type 2 diabetes. They want to get off their medication. They want to detach from the grip of big pharma and big government. They want to be healthy. How do they believe they can do it when they've been on 20 medications for 30 years, when their doctor tells them this is a permanent condition for the rest of their lives? How do they develop that belief?
Yes. So it's funny. So in our events, we literally focus on the first part is past, present, and future. And so dreaming is one of the biggest elements. And I'll give you an example. I had a stage 4 cancer private client that I work with. And it was, first of all, I burst into tears that she even thinks of me to be on that level. And I didn't even know where to start. Like, to be honest, I was like, holy shit. So like, I'm like left with this emotion here. And like, what do I do with this information? So I went inside and I was like, first thing that we started doing was dreaming. And so I asked her, what is the last time that you dreamed? What are your dreams? What is your bucket list? And it's this really busy, entrepreneur that has done huge success in a career, but everything else kind of fell through because we forgot about the complexity and balance of all levels of our life. And so she started dreaming that I would love to be in Tuscany one day, and I want to be there with my husband and spend more time with my kids and girlfriends. And then we start dreaming, and within minutes of that conversation even, she starts smiling. She starts like being somewhere else. So the most important thing is to dream. And so this simple exercise we do at the end of our breath work is we first look at the last breath that you take. So you can do it, maybe after this session with a nice little journal. Just go into the state of meditation, maybe do a little bit of breath work before just to change the states. And then start thinking that right now it's the last exhale that you take. Now think about what would life look backwards if you had the last breath and you really express your truest, highest desires. So then we start thinking, right? And so there's 2 ways to create, just to kind of clarify that. One way is the monkey brain way, the mind, what we think we want in life.
Yeah.
And the other way is the heart, which is what is for the greatest good of the whole that will benefit the triple benefit of all of us. Now, when we create from our mind, let's say you want a house and Ferrari, right? Something very conceptual that a lot of people in this society dreams of. Nothing wrong with that, right? But if it is not of your highest path, then guess what? You can manifest whatever you put your mind to, literally. But maybe 3 months down the line, you lose the job that pays for the mortgage of the house. Or maybe the house catches on fire. There's always duality. You're creating through duality that has something to take if you give. Does that make sense? So
yes.
There's always that repercussion.
Yep.
The balance. Now, when you create from your heart, that does not exist. And so I'll show you that reversed engineering, right? So you actually first make up all of the images, all the dreams, all the visions. Literally, you can feel it, hear it, see it, right? You use these inner senses to just get it as detailed as you wish. Then you attach emotion, which is the supercharger or the super power to fuel that. So you start feeling it, right? That's a lot of Joe Dispenza's work.
Yeah.
And then you set the intention and attention. How are you going to get there? So most people, when you create from your mind, you have an intention, an idea of what you think you want, right? But when you create from the heart, you really allow it to unfold and see and feel from this highest intention of what is for the greatest good of the whole. And then you still do the action, because that's where a lot of the spiritual community misses it.
Right.
We think that we can just magnetize anything.
Yeah.
And yes, if you get really into an advanced state, absolutely it's possible. But to bridge the delta, right, you got to get there somewhere, right?
You got to do some work.
If your life is absolutely not a reflection of what you want, then there's some work to do, right? And so then I like to break it down into segments. So you first dream of the last breath. So what would just the complex overall life look like? Then you go 10 years from now, so as a milestone. And then you think back, if it was 10 years from today, where are you? Who are you with? What have you created? Where did you live? Who were you, what did you learn? Kind of like all of the most beautiful things that make up your values, right? Who you are. Then you go down to 3 to 5 years, or you can even go down to a year. So that way it's like very tangible, right? Then you go down into a month, week, and day. And that goes back into my process of unhooking, because then I'm constantly moving towards that trajectory of what my highest dreams and desires are. And so what happens is you connect it and use that time to reassess, reevaluate, right? And you're going to expand this, right? This is going to change. Like as you learn new things, you've never even, like I've never thought of I would do this, right? So it keeps on accelerating and changing, but you treat it as a folder on a computer. So something you can do at home, and this is exactly what we do in our events, we imagine a tree. So you first imagine a seed in your visions, right? In your meditation through breath. Then you plant the seed somewhere in the world that you can remember. With each exhale, you water the seed until it becomes a tree. The top of the tree is a last breath. The base of the tree is where you're sitting right now. Now, on the tree, you have the timeline. So top of the tree is one vision, 10 years, right? Or whatever the years you want to break through. And the most important part is, what are you going to do tomorrow, right? And so, if you can spend 4% of your time or even 1% of your time every single day on realizing your dreams, then guess what? There is Manifestation 101.
Yeah.
And it is no woo-wee wow. It is no law of attraction. It is no nothing. It's just the basic way of how you spend your time.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I totally resonate with that. Earl Nightingale used to say, success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. It's exactly what you just said. A worthy ideal is that goal, whether it's 10 years from now, a month from now, or tomorrow. As long as you close the gap, you could say 1%, 20%, 100%. But as long as the gap is closing, you're successful. You're going to thrive. You're going to get all the resources and the energy to do all the things you want to do. But if you don't have those goals, you're not clear on those goals, or you have them and you're not pursuing them, then you're not going to have the vitality. You're not going to have the health. You're not going to have all the things required to achieve it. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, and so one thing that's important, because I think what happens a lot of times, this is when the monkey brain can come in.
Oh, yeah.
And so our monkey brain, just to understand, it's like a child. So you have to treat your monkey brain as a kid.
Yeah.
And what happens is a kid wants to be heard all the time. And this is why all the 95% of all of our thoughts is repetition, and 80% of them are negative.
Yeah.
This is actually proven by science. And so think about it. If you look into your thoughts, number one, you start questioning them. But number two, you use your monkey brain as a billboard. So I talk to my monkey brain. Please step to the side. I really appreciate you. I love you. You treat it like a kid, right? Because if you resist it, it will be that much louder.
Yeah.
So, and like a billboard, I'm going to call you in when I need you. So that way you can look at the billboard as you please for suggestions, because we need monkey brain for bank transfers, building a trip, right? To live here on the third dimension. So there's nothing wrong with ego, right? But it's the unleashed monkey mind that works against you instead of for you. And so this is why in those moments, especially the day, week, and month, at first, there'll be resistance. Because what it happens to your mind is she or he will think that it will die, right? Because there's no more tuning in.
Yes.
And so, but the heart needs the silence, needs the peace. And so this is why breath, this is why neurofeedback, this is why even, ice bath, these are all incredible tools in the world to basically help us quiet that mind or remove it for a little bit, so that we can follow these desires, these, beautiful things inside.
So good. Oh, I love this conversation. It's right up my alley. Your thoughts are so powerful. Like you said, about 90 to 95%, same thoughts from yesterday, and the majority of them are negative thoughts. I call it stinking thinking. If your thinking is stinking, your dreams are shrinking. And most people, they have mental activity, but they're not thinking. The quote from Bob Proctor, he used to say, 3% of the population think. Only 3% actually think. 2% think they think, and 95% of people would rather die than think. Just because you have thoughts, just because you have mental activity, does not mean you're thinking, does not mean you're consciously aware. But using these tools that you shared and many others, it allows you to become aware. It allows you to become more conscious and to reprogram the subconscious, which accepts everything, whether it's reality or it's not. It's made up. It'll accept everything. Share your website again, and I have a final question for you, my friend.
Yeah, so it's noaaon, noaaon.com. And also, we would love to give a on-demand library.
Yeah.
So we have over 80 hours of recordings on our website. We'll put it into the link.
Yes.
That will give you a free access to try it out. Anything from 3 minutes to 2-hour journeys. So you can do it from anywhere of your home. And I also do a coaching program where we work on a weekly basis with a group of individuals that want to go through all that we spoke about in much more depth. And so we'll share that as well.
So yeah, you'll give me the links. We're going to put all those in the notes of the YouTube and the podcast. So check out the resources down below for all of that. Thank you for that gift too, by the way. That's freaking awesome. Last question is this. I want to take a quick break from the video you're watching to share something with you that has made a big difference with my health and the thousands and thousands of students that I teach all across the world. Now, this is a unique device that has been shown to help with skin health, sore muscles, wrinkles, psoriasis, eczema, scoliosis, migraines, sleep issues, arthritis, acne, scar tissue, wound healing, relaxation, and also boost testosterone levels. It's red light therapy. Turn it on, and as you can see, I just leave it there on my desk as I work. 10, 20 minutes per day will suffice. Then head over to bondcharge.com/KetoCamp and use the coupon code KetoCamp to get 15% off your red light device. So whether it's these Bond Charge blue light blocking glasses, their sauna blanket, or any of their awesome products, use that coupon code KetoCamp at checkout. We'll drop a link down below. Go check them out. They are awesome. And let's get back to today's video. Vitamin G. You know what vitamin G is. We were just talking about it. I always ask the guests the final question. What do you have vitamin G for today, my friend?
It's really this moment with you. I was so excited for a very long time because I admire you. I love your energy. And I actually want to thank you on behalf of everyone that what you're doing, because education equals inspiration. Inspiration gives people motivation and then makes a result. And so in today's world of negativity and unsettledness in so many different ways, you're giving hope and you're giving an opportunity for another roadmap So thank you.
Oh, beautiful, bro. Received. Thank you.
If you enjoyed that conversation, you're gonna love a brand new interview I just released with Dr. William Li, all about the best foods to starve cancer, burn fat, repair DNA, and heal the body.
So I'm not saying yogurt's bad, I'm saying yogurt's good. However, the Blueberry your favorite yogurt, there's like a band of jelly. So you open it up, you stir it up, and now you've got your blueberry low-fat yogurt. Good for you, right? You got berries, you got low-fat. Wrong.